We have been around since 2018, and I myself have been using humic acids for 15 years now. The reason we got into using humic acid was we've got 30,000 head feedlots every 5 miles. So we're getting a lot of manure out. Every 3 or 4 years, we're getting 30 tons of manure. And when you get manure, you get micros, but you also get salt. And so what never made sense to me was why my agronomist every year kept saying, oh, you still need 60 to 80 pounds of phos. And so got to looking at what we could do to free that up. Humic acid will buffer salts. It will, because it's got an extra positive ion on humic, it's both positive and negatively charged. It will bind to anything. And so it opens up soils, unbinds phos from salts, reduces drought stress by holding water. It holds 7 times its weight in water. So if you get a 1-inch rain, 2-inch rain, whatever it is, the soil's more apt to accept it. And it doesn't make it muddier. It just holds it for the root zone, whatnot. So what we're seeing with that is like this right here. This was in the same field. We had strip tilled in 3 gallons of humic acid, which you can see on the right. But what that did is that just as that humic just melts down through the soil, that's actually a 3-foot taproot on that plant. And you can see it was also put in 2x2. So it just opens up the ground where it is and makes things available, makes roots, maximizes the root. And on the left, where there's no humic, what happens, plants are lazy, just like humans. If everything is right where you are, why do you need to go farther? And so spring is nice, moist, root zone is right up there, but then you start to see the heat coming in July, August. You start seeing the heat stress, drought stress. That's where the roots are. They're getting caked along with the top 8 inches of soil. So that's one benefit to humic acid right there. One thing we hope that our guys can get done is what I call a treasure chest test. So a treasure chest is, in this example, the top 8 inches of soil. The nutrient digestion analysis report done through Regen Labs here in Nebraska, just north of us, about 30 miles. Now I got an idea of what's in my soil. So in the nitrogen, you got 3,800 pounds of nitrogen, 866 pounds of phos, 5,900 pounds of potassium, calcium, and so on down the port. So now we know what's there. Now we just need to free it up. So if someone gets a test back and it's literally nothing there, well, you will probably need to add something or make sure that you can make it something available through the fertilizer. But getting a test like this back, we know we can do something. So to show what that can do, I had a field that I'd never farmed before. What I did was 3 gallons in strip. So I put it down about 6 inches down with the strip till machine and came back 2 months later and took a test. And you can see in the row versus right in between the row, everything with a star, your phos, your potassium, your calcium, it all doubled. So we had 22 pounds available between the row, but in the row it was 47, almost 48 pounds, double the amount of calcium. So that shows what humic does. It makes whatever is in the soil more available to the soil, and it continues to work throughout the year. So if you're spoon feeding your humic, if you get some in furrow, if you get some through pivots, the carbon is feeding the microbes, and the microbes do the work. The microbes increase your organic matter. They make the transportation of nutrients in your plants much easier. So this was a soil test. On the left would have been fall of 22, right after harvest. That would have been 6th year of corn. And all I did, the one on the right, is after the 7th year of corn. So the only thing I added is where I circled there, I put in 20 gallons of 32 with my strip till machine. But you can see everything with the star increased. And I haven't added micros since 2017. But it continues to free up and increase the amount that's in the soil. And that was after 7th year of corn. And here our APHs you know, they're 240, 250 for most part. And then coming into 24 spring, I got another Haney. These are all Haney tests that we show. But coming into spring, if you look down the left-hand corner, it shows a yield goal of 275. We're showing 59, almost 60 pounds of nitrogen available, but only nitrogen is recommended. No micros. So again, the humic acid frees up what's there. Just think how much you can save someone on inputs, FOS alone. I mean, just, you know, guys are throwing out lime in order to try to balance something because something's out of whack, where it isn't necessarily buffering. It's just adding another layer of confusion to the soil. So, and lime doesn't necessarily become available right away, but it's just kind of showing what humic acid can do in the soil and how you can benefit mostly from inputs. So this Haney test, if you look at this, do you guys use Haney's down there?
No, we don't.
Okay. So the one thing that we like to show guys with a Haney is a test that shows your microbial activity, how healthy your soil is. You know, traditional test will take a snapshot of that day. And this shows example right here in that nitrogen comparison. A snapshot of that day would show 25 pounds available of nitrogen. Well, a Haney takes into account your microbial activity. So the healthier your soil, the more active the microbes, the more available that nutrients will be throughout the season. So with a Haney, they're showing 59.8, which is a difference of 33 pounds. So just on nitrogen alone, they can save you $35 an acre. We do have a link on our website to these guys. Lance Gunderson has started the lab. He'd been with Ward Laboratories for 17 years, which is up here if you've heard of them or worked with them at all. But he wanted to get into Haney's, broke off, and they're doing strictly Haney tests and working with soil health. So we try to get guys at least an idea of where their soil health activity is and where it can go.
Okay.
But here's so 5 gallons of humic acid right now, it retails at $7.75 a gallon. So we're spending 38, almost $39 an acre on humic. So in my mind, I'm not spending $38 an acre. I'm using that as a way to unlock what's available in the soil, because to add manure every 30 years or 3-4 years, right now it's $150 an acre. I mean, it's increasing in price, but now that's looking, if you spread it over 3 years, $50 an acre, right?
Yeah.
60, 80 pounds of FOS every year, probably $65 on the low end. But that's another just kind of example of using humic to free up what's there versus continually add it. And when you're adding it, it's getting locked up. You know, if your salts are out of whack, if your pH is out of whack, it's just going to get tied up and not be available to the plant anyway. Right.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're looking at for humic. Do you get any questions on that? On what it is, how it works, or
No, I've just got some guys that that do use humic, but they've been using I guess the same product for several years, going on 10 plus years or whatever it might be. Well, I guess what I was going to see, their humic, where they're getting it from versus y'all's guys' humic is really.
The thing that we've tried to do, I'm a farmer, I'm a 4th generation farmer. Everything that we use has been used on my farm. So initially, I mean, we had some great humic, but man, if you didn't use it right, or if you didn't agitate it, you had problems. I mean, it was going to plug, it was going to settle out, it was going to be frustrating. However, over the years, we've tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, and now we've got it up to the point where it's a 12% humic. It is nanotized like the rest of our products, and so putting it through the nano process, it will hold those long chain carbons in suspension longer. And as it settles, because all humic will settle because of the long chain carbon in it, it goes into suspension much better. So if someone gets like a tote from us and it sits for a couple of weeks or a month, they're not going to get stuck with 8 inches of sludge at the bottom. So
Okay.
the other thing is we've got some guys that put 9,000 gallons through their ground rig, their sprayer, and pulled the filters out and didn't have any plug in them. So we're confident in it. We haven't had anybody complain about use. But the biggest feedback we get is, why are you guys so cheap? Most of the time we're about 50% cheaper than lots of places. And we do that for two reasons. One, we don't want to gouge anybody, but two, we want guys to use enough to see agronomic effect. So on my fields, I found that 5 gallons an acre is where I need to be to free up and recover from the abuse that I'd done for it for decades, and my dad for decades, my grandpa for decades. But that doesn't mean everybody needs that much. So you need to kind of try to find your sweet spot. But at 5 gallons an acre, I'm seeing effect. Maybe someone needs less, someone needs more, just kind of, but it allows them then to use enough to find it, to get an effect from.
And one more thing, are you doing this every year or
Yep.
are you okay?
Every year,
5 gallon,
every
5
year.
gallons an acre every year.
Yeah, so and that's a good question, but yeah, I haven't seen a reason to back off. It may not be that I need that much everywhere, but it's a comfort zone for me right now. Like, I've seen where 5 gallons does, 7 gallons does. Everything continues to keep improving. But that isn't necessarily something that you would have to keep at. But just keep in mind, microbes want carbon. And so the other thing to follow in your soil test is where's your carbon levels. When you get if your organic matter is, honestly, if it's under 4%, there's a reason to feed them. If you get up over 4, maybe you could pull back a little bit, but a lot of ours is 2.5 to 3.5.
Yeah, our organic matter is very poor over here. It's below
Okay.
1. Some our better ground is like 2%.
Okay, so that might be a reason alone, just to maybe run some strips, a 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 gallon strips, and just come back and take a sample. Okay, from the base test, what did it free up after 2 gallons, after 6 gallon, after 8 gallon? That's kind of what I had to do in mine. I found the sweet spot between 4 and 6.
Okay.
But the main thing is it's also got to increase their profits. We don't want someone just to say, hey, I'm going to throw $70 worth of humic out here and make that be an added $70 expense. You should be able to free up something within your inputs by either freeing it up from the soil or reducing something. That's the key.